But yeah, well played. I knew you would give me trouble in the first half. That's what I gathered from the games I watched.
Yeah, I guess this time I was kind of lucky what happened on the bottom because you had to push in the second line that gave me a lot of influence.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I thought I could just capture that storm, but then I noticed, oh no, there's still this Liberty shortage. So I messed up a little bit there, but I also didn't think it was too bad. Like I think, yeah, when after I pushed a bunch of times, okay, it was apparently black +4, so it's, at move 50, that doesn't mean much.
Well, it was helpful for me. I'm not
Yeah,
sure, yeah, score wise, but to have some directions and everything, it was helpful.
yeah. I wonder where. I guess okay. Just looking through it because I commentated on stream in the
Excuse me,
first. Yeah.
can you open a review so I can see the
Oh
move
yeah.
at the
Oh,
same
sorry,
time
sorry, sorry.
because the
Right.
stream is kind of delayed.
Yeah. No, no.
Spielbesprechung
Of course.
gestartet.
I was just looking at what my mistake was because just the first 60 to 80 moves of this game, I was a bit. I don't know. I couldn't really explain to my stream much what you did wrong because you didn't do anything wrong, not too much at least. Um, and apparently this Atari was just bad, yeah, because you could do this, yeah. So okay, good to know. Anyway, let's go back. All right. Uh,
Yeah, I
just
don't understand what happened on this bottom right because I didn't feel I was doing something bad, but I was in a very bad shape and bad situation very quickly.
yeah. Um, so yeah, this is actually a variation. I like to play the spin sign, especially after this. I like to play this. But in this case, I didn't play it because I liked it, but because I wanted to get you out of your comfort zone. But then you played a Joseki variation that I don't usually get to play because almost nobody ever played this against me, so I got out of my comfort zone again. So, um, yeah, so one thing here is actually you could, I think, ask here first, and and then there's actually some double Hane variations here. No, I don't think you can do it immediately, but you want to set this up. So you want to set up something where you can. Okay, this doesn't work right now, but you can just threaten to capture these stones, which is obviously really good for you. Or I say obviously, but the Punuki is leading to nothingness and you fix all your weaknesses. It doesn't completely work at this point because you can't block here, and if you do this, then there's still this kind of move where now I threaten to just capture your bottom stones. But I think I'm not quite sure how to set it up, but there is stuff like maybe this where you threaten the cut. There's some variation where you can set this up. Um, but I don't know them too well either, so let's not go into too much detail. It just felt that after all this, now this connection, it was a little bit slow because it didn't put too much pressure on my group, and I got to extend here.
Yeah.
So yeah, unless you can make something happen on the bottom side, which you could because I messed up a little bit, but it's just okay. I get this corner, and you get a outside group with still this weakness and a weakness around here. So it only really is making some profit in this direction. But yeah, I was wondering if you would cut, and you did, so got me there.
Well, I was looking because I thought that if I don't cut and I just try to kind of escape and correct my group, you would get a very huge bottom left and it would be very hard for me to continue. So
Right.
I tried the cut. But I didn't expect the cut to be that efficient to get all this influence and to put you on the very bottom.
Yeah, and to be fair, it shouldn't have been, but
Yeah, that's cool.
that's why I love Go because even in a teaching game, I still learn so much too. So That's a variation I sure will look at later, just to see. But it's not about me now, so let's move on. What I wanted to say, so yeah, the start was really good for you, and I think you do have good fighting spirit, especially in the early game. But there seems to be just some switch in your game where you just, I don't know, do you feel, do you panic, or what is it? What do you think? Is it that?
Yeah, I think there is a mix of this game. There was a lot of Bioyomi that was very panicking. And although I think that my I don't know what the name in English, but lecture, like the way of just
Hmm.
seeing the stone and how the situation will evolve, tend to be, I would call it blurry. Like,
Hmm.
so for directions, for where to go to construct like the fuseki, it's kind of working well.
Yeah,
But as soon as it needs to be more precise, I tend to fail because it's not precise enough, basically.
yeah. So it's kind of funny because at the start I thought, well, this is not the game I wanted, and then it turned out to be exactly the game I wanted in terms of teaching. Um, so I wasn't even, I mean, I was of course not happy with my position here, but I was more unhappy that I didn't think there was much I could say up to this point. Yeah,
Well, here I was kind of happy because I was telling some friends on the chat that I knew that there will be a comeback because even if I had influence, I couldn't I hadn't the strength to deal with it later. So
yeah. And I mean, AI says at this point black plus 4 or 5, but of course,
yeah.
in human perspective, you have everything pointing in the center, I have nothing. Uh, but yeah.
Well, I
Um,
think the top is still quite open.
yeah, of course. So I actually thought maybe you could just oh, okay. Let me put it this way. You have this tendency to want to simplify the game. And I think if
Yeah.
in this case, if you don't attack and just protect the top side, that's one way to simplify it in a bit, in a
Mm.
way. Yeah, because now you don't give me any target basically. Besides maybe these weaknesses on the bottom side still. But I mean it's totally fine still. This two, I guess it's a bit uncomfortable to fight here, but it's also a bit, well, it's
Yeah,
giving.
I feel like I should have done Air 14 instead of Air 13,
Mm.
so I would avoid this kind of cut.
Though to be fair, this is simplifying the game, and I don't think it loses you much. If anything, it's still you're making uh, giving me some points, but it's not a lot, and you're gaining the strength and center in the center. So I think this was still completely fine. Um, Here you started pushing me a bit in your weaker side group, so I think you could consider maybe a move like this. Simply because if I would go in this direction, I don't know, something, you can still just build the bottom side and get rid of a lot of your trouble.
Oh yeah.
And like this, of course, you make a bigger top left area, but as you could see in the game, it turned out maybe slightly too big for your for your good,
Oh
because you
yeah, I
could
was
still
very
make it a
surprised
mess.
how easily you just cut my stones and invited.
Yeah, and that's because there was a lot of weaknesses in there, but also you responded very passively to my
Mm.
trying to exploit your weaknesses. So let me go in here. So I think up to this point, this was still fine for you. Just either honey or just extend here is probably just better to just do it now. Um,
Mm.
and if you play on the left side, it's you could play from this side instead, because now it's very hard for white to escape. And you're building the top side too, but mainly white has a hard time. Like if white has to struggle here, um, seems a bit, it seems maybe a bit weird for white to make anything happen here. Like if white has to maybe peep and escape some way here, it's a fight. I don't know. Maybe this is a bit risky, but I guess that's why you played a move like this. But then for sure you have to continue locally. You can't ignore this attach. Uh, if you play here now, something like this, my whole white group is under attack, and you make points on the left side and make points where I used to make points.
Yeah. I was
So,
very terrified by the weakness on the right side,
mm,
and so that's why I played the M6. Actually, I thought you would play M6 before.
yeah, I considered it, but I've I I've actually played L5 as a ladder breaker.
Okay.
I played it to break you play this to break this kind of this ladder here in the corner, which comes after some variations like this. Uh, like this.
Okay.
So I was looking at that, so that's why I actually played this move to see how you respond. And if you just extend, I made the ladder for me. And if you don't, then well, I didn't actually know how to follow up, but I thought you have so many cuts and weaknesses there should be something. I didn't want you to surround my group here, and your shape was this was just too juicy to cut off. So in general, I think my main advice in this game for you is to take more of those risks. Like I know it's scary to leave some weakness behind, but you also have to see that the bottom side is only your weakness, but the left side is more or less both of our weaknesses, or the points that both of us can make. So by just letting me capture this one stone, I all of a sudden made all these points here and made my group very strong, and I exert influence in this direction, which in turn makes it a lot easier for me to reduce you. And if instead you played here, not only do you keep my group here weak, but you actually take all the points too. And now because I'm weak, it's a lot harder for me to actually exploit the weaknesses you have on the outside.
Yeah, I
Like
see.
if you peep here, for example, and do something like this, you can actually just, I think, kind of connect here even. Like there is not really anything here because there's this counter squeeze here. And if you prevent this by playing here, then you can get cut off and just live separately in the corner, I guess. But just to say, white is also weak, so I'm not even sure white can do this because white can just be cut off here, and then it's a question of, well, you have to fix on the outside because if you do something inside, then this just works. And so if white saves that, then you already have a cut and can just connect here. So yeah. So yeah, that's I think where this boils down to. Basically, all other moves in this game too. You have to risk dying to live, basically.
Yeah.
So, because if you always overprotect, you will, yeah, you will never get to exploit the opponent's weaknesses enough, and they get away with way too much. And in games where you're really far ahead, like in your, this was very deep here. In games like the games you had in your tournament, where you dominated your opponents and you were like 15 points ahead, and there was not a lot of trouble coming anymore. There you can get away with that because okay, you lose a three or 4 points here, but the opponent gives it back there, and so on. But against me, that didn't work.
Yeah, and it doesn't. It also doesn't work. I can lose a lot of games, even though against weaker players when there is a lot of fights
Yeah,
and there is not big zones because yeah, I tend to be too secure and so I lose. too many points.
Yeah. So my advice to you would be that your next games you play, or maybe your most recent games, but preferably your next, because then you're already maybe in the next in the new mindset, would be to take some time to really evaluate which weaknesses are the more important ones, and if you or and if and to trust your reading. Like if you don't see anything working for the opponent, then don't play there and let the opponent prove that there's something. And if the
Yeah.
opponent proves that there's something, then you can learn from that. But if the opponent doesn't prove that there's something, well, then you win the game. So it's a win-win. Either you learn why you should have projected, or you learn that the opponent couldn't make use of it. And that doesn't mean, of course, that it shouldn't, that didn't work because maybe the opponent couldn't abuse it, but then you win more. So the problem with always overprotecting is you don't find out. Of
Yeah.
course, you can find out in your review, but you finding out in review, especially if you only do it by finding out by AI review, doesn't give you the same experience. It doesn't give you the same sweat in game because your automatic motion is always, let's just defend. And one of the most powerful tools you have in Go is Tenuki. It's the most powerful move in Go. And you don't have that move. Because I think if you grow that in your Go, you're a done player, no problem.
Okay.
And yeah,
Thank you.
to look at a few more moves, like here, for example, you just fix my weaknesses. I think you can, for example, you
Yeah.
can crosscut here and you get a lot more here. Even considering if white now has to play this, you can already get one more move
Yeah.
here on the outside. And if white
No,
extends,
it's a good example. I didn't do it
yeah.
because I was kind of scared of the fight, and in the end, I should have read more
Hmm.
and try it.
And in a way, it is you don't have anything to lose here. It's white who has something to lose.
Yeah.
White has the cut, white has the weakness, you have no weakness. But instead, you fixed my weakness and in turn created your own weakness on the outside now.
Yeah. The thank you move.
Yeah, it's basically a thank you move. I was debating should I respond this, but it's just a thank you move. So and yeah, and then you come back here after already extending, and yeah, this is just way too passive.
Yeah.
These
No,
kind
it's
of
exactly the same. I didn't read. I just think that
mm,
this looks bad, so I will correct it. And in the end, I should have read either something or not.
yeah. Yeah, so again, that's the main advice. Stop yourself, read, and if you read that something works, then play. But if you don't read anything, then don't play there, and we will see you will just explode your game in a much different way. And because it's better to misread and learn from it than to just automatically assume that there is something.
Yeah.
That's like doing Tsumego, but I don't know, but I can't. Hmm. Okay, there's no good analogy there. I thought I had one something maybe, but like, yeah, like doing Tsumego, you train to read, but then, well, I don't know. I guess it's like training for a marathon and then not actually running it
Yeah.
because you just say, I'm just going to lose anyway. And here too, I mean, you defended, and I just think it wasn't necessary because there was still a lot of space here on the top side, and there was also still weaknesses in white's shape. So what could white have done if you now maybe attack from this side? Like white cuts, that's not possible actually, even. It's just a ladder already.
Mm.
And if white can't cut, then what is white accomplishing with this move? So this move 100% was me asking you, are you going to defend? And you did.
Yeah.
And so with these, let's say with these Tenukis and moves here, you can see all of them or most of them didn't gain you anything and points. Like you could argue the bottom stone gives you some influence, but you could see in the game I played here and then what's really your potential here in this area if you can't attack me.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I think at this point, this was actually, this one was really troublesome, and I thought, you could play J14 and then you found it. That's what's so fascinating. You have these strokes of genius where you really find amazing moves, and then you overdefend. And even here, like there was something I missed. I could have cut directly, and you also missed that, so we both missed that here, and then I cut, and then at this point. Here you still had to fight on the outside. That was your only chance to now fight here
Yeah.
and just Atari and escape with this group. And it's still, I mean, I have to live here and the outside is still in question and the top side is still in question. So there's still a lot of questions here. But that's not your comfort zone, and your comfort zone was just to defend here. And I think if I remember correctly, it was white plus 5 or 6 at this point, and after you defended, it was just white plus 25, and it got only worse from here because
Yeah.
I got to or I got to capture the cutting stones, which was
Yeah.
potentially threatening 3 of my groups, and you only got the top left corner, which you had anyway, and I got strength in the middle where you couldn't make any more points, and so I even got center and could reduce that, and yeah, from here on, I mean, you still just passively defended everything. Like this one was not if you defend, then at least you can do it by gaining some points in the corner, or maybe even like this. Because there's no way I can abuse the liberty shortages here. Like maybe I can do this, but then you just jump and you didn't get. I mean, I didn't gain much from this. But I mean, at this point, it wasn't game losing anymore because yeah, game was already lost. But even here, yeah, it just you just fix your weaknesses, and as long as you're far ahead, that's fine. But
Yeah.
I feel like it's the habit that holds you back the most. And I think that this move is probably one of the clearest ones in that regard, and also this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in another point of view, I'd rather lose trying to fight than lose defending everything and never trying to fight.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a lot of evaluation where groups are weak and where groups are strong, but again, that's also something you find out by fighting more or by
Yeah, that's
accepting that
kind of the point of the game.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was explaining by blurry reading, because
Mm,
I tend to not evaluate precisely, and that's what you say. When you know by reading that you have one more move before being really threatened, you just win one move basically.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think
Thank you.
that's all I had to say about the game. Do you have any questions or remarks or whatever?
No, it was. Thank you for the review. It was very interesting, and even the game. And yeah, and now I have objective for the next one, so it's perfect.
Yeah, yeah. I think I personally always love if I know what I have to improve next because I get really excited. Oh, I can do this and try this and maybe do this, and then I get stronger. And so far, the last years, that has worked really well for me. Just to retain this curiosity. Oh, how can I and what can I? I'm never out of ideas ever again, probably because I have like a backlog of 20 ideas I want to do still to improve. But prioritizing what is most important is, of course, also very important. And yeah, I guess that's where teaching games like this are very helpful.
Yeah,
Right. So
thank you very much.
yeah, thank you for the game. Well fought, and see you maybe then in another time.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. Have a good one.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye bye. All right. Yeah.